Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles.
That'll wake you up.
Indeed. I am your host, Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can also find me at NewsNewsNeed on Twitter. Also, CBCaps on Instagram. And with me tonight, as always, the man, the mellow, the man behind all the sound effects, our man in Brooklyn, @agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram.
What's up, everybody?
Where Brooklyn at? Where Brooklyn at? Where Brooklyn at?
I spared Roddykat this week.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I was gonna wonder. I was like, wait a minute, he didn't.
I spared him. I'm still on the quest to find the right drop for Roddykat at the beginning of the show.
Pick up the tribe.
Yeah, right.
Haha. Not with us tonight is one PC_dirt on Twitter, PopCultureNet on Twitter, and PopCultureNetwork.com. And the Osiris of this ish, one Tim DOGG98 on Twitter, TB Cron on Twitter, which is the Comic Book Chronicles Twitter account, The Click Nation on Twitter, theclicknation.com, that's the KLIQNATION, and also Comic Book Resources, where he's over there writing his face off, which I realize that's kind of a hard thing to do because you use your fingers to write, not your fingers. But you know what? You know what it means. You know what I mean.
Yep.
You can find this here for a podcast on the Cold Slither Podcast Network. That's CSPN.us.
Do it today.
Indeed. And you can also find us on your podcast perusal place of choice. That is Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and also the Cold Slither Podcast Network's SoundCloud page. Just juggling those syllables right there. We are going to start off as we tend to do every week with the books of the week. And we're going to start off with Valkyrie Jane Foster #7.
Or Jane Foster Valkyrie #7.
Exactly. We like to say it. Which really sounds better personally, but you know, it's weird how they got that. But this, in a week, as we were talking before the show, in a week that was, some would argue, is, despite there being a number of books, and we are in an X-less week, kind of light, possibly because of that, or you know, because of what we know to be a couple of issues that are late, which is weird because, you know, they could have had some books coming out this week had they not, you know, threw out some extra books over the holiday.
Right.
But that's neither here nor there. We are here now, and we may still, I think we still have another week of that. I can't remember if we got any X books next week. But Jane Foster #7 is also is a continual delight around here. This issue marks Al Ewing's last time on the book, or last issue of this book,
right?
As he his hands full with Immortal Hulk and his upcoming Guardians run. So, you know, as we have talked about in the past, there's going to be a new co-writer with joining Jason Aaron next month, who's, as we have said, quite fitting for this book, especially in name.
Absolutely. And we'll get to that when that book rolls around.
Indeed. But until then, I'd say this was a pretty decent wrap-up issue to the arc, and I guess Al Ewing's stint to the run. We basically have the medical team. I tended to call them Avengers. They are not, because every other time you have a group of just disparate superheroes, they're either defenders or Avengers some kind of way. Even though you have little association with them. They're basically in this realm, and they've you know, basically fought their way to
They're Marvel's medics. That's the title blurb. That's the blurb that's on the cover.
Right. So, whether they're going to actually stick to that or, just going to keep it as like, this is not necessarily a team we're going to stick with like that. So we're just going to push it along. I would kind of actually like to see this team together. Once again, like Kardik aside, who can be, a bit of a problem as he was in this issue.
Right.
Everybody else seems like, especially I've said before, I love Faiza Hussein, so she's anytime I get to see her in the book is welcome in my book. You got Jane Foster or Doctor Strange, the aforementioned couple of people, and Mannequin, who's pretty much a callback to an earlier time.
Definitely.
So, and also is it Claire Temple, Night Nurse? No, it's not Claire. It's not.
No,
Claire.
this is Linda Carter.
Linda Carter. No, it's not Linda Carter. Because Linda Carter. Well, actually, it might be, but I'm not sure. I don't know if that's actually true or not. I think it's the other one.
Wait a second. Linda Carter was in
Hawkeye Fall.
Right, that's it. So I think this is Claire Temple.
No, it's not. It's definitely not Claire. It's
it's the third one.
It's the other one. Yeah.
Okay.
Whose name is escaping me at the moment.
Wait, is the Claire Temple one supposed to resemble Rosario Dawson?
Basically.
Okay.
To which they haven't used her that much in books. Like they've either used this one or, surprisingly enough, Claire. They've used this one more lately than either of the other two.
Gotcha.
Because this one has shown up, in the past as we talked in one thing, probably Doctor Strange in the first place. Now that I think about it, but yeah. Regardless, Night Nurse,
right?
And they're all in this realm, and basically, Death is sick and possibly dying, and it comes up during the course of their journey as to why would they need Death. Which I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, wait, did they already kind of like do this? I feel like this could have been something that would have been handled in the MCU if Death had been introduced along with Thanos properly.
Well, there's a concept here that behind the sickness of Death, behind Death's sickness, which ties into the greater happenings in the Marvel universe, which is really interesting.
Right. It feels like they basically doing in this book what they kind of did with Magic. Not necessarily about the cost, but it was like, well, what happens if, with the prospect of Magic dying? In this case, it's what happens with the prospect of Death dying. Should that happen? But it pretty much got all nice and neatly. I kind of wonder if Al Ewing wasn't leaving this book, would they have explored that a little bit more?
Why is that?
Well, I don't know, because it feels like, well, they basically went into this like last issue, and now it's pretty much all right, done, or at least for now. Like maybe it could come up somewhere else, but I doubt it, because basically they pretty much wrapped up. Not without getting to it like right this second. They pretty much wrapped up the part. It was like, well, Death's sick, but now she's not sick anymore. There's also a Death version of the Living Tribunal. That's that we find out that's apparently now alive.
Right. So just to break it down in very broad strokes for the listeners and the viewers out there, Death is. It's almost like Death is having a crisis because of the of some of the recent. Even so far as what I was going to say is even so far as Marvel history is concerned, some of the recent developments in the Marvel universe that seem to break the rules around dying and people and characters coming back.
And there was no mention, by the way, of the X-verse.
Yes, they are.
They did? I don't remember that.
There's two things that they mention. A green door.
Yes, but that's
and pods.
Okay,
They
yeah,
mention pods.
yeah. Okay, they did mention
Right,
that.
they
Okay.
do. That's why I specifically, like when I was getting into the recap, like the broad stroke recap of the book, that's really what is causing the death to be in crisis. And essentially this crisis being whether or not death is legitimate anymore in this universe. And that's where this aspect of the living tribunal comes into play.
Right.
And it's the death of death. And it's a really abstract concept, and that's something else that Jason Aaron and Al Ewing play into in this book, with regards to representing it on the page. And they go so far as to show us through the eyes of Valkyrie, and she's on the verge of actually losing her mind because as a human she's not fully able to comprehend what she's seeing through the Valkyrie's eyes.
Right.
And she has to sort of pull back.
Well, she has to get pulled back because
Right.
you recall it was Dr. Strange that was the one that kind of pulled her back.
Right. What I was gonna say is she has to pull back and she's forced to pull back. Right.
Right.
But there's the team, they're on a quest essentially, and this issue shows them getting picked off one by one for certain reasons, leaving
Well,
the
as what
end.
happens, right? As what's in a situation like this, hey, so we've seen it in TV shows and movies all the time. It's like, well, you got a group of people, and then all of a sudden, or specifically in superhero terms, it's like, hey, I got to deal with this crisis. You go on ahead, or I got to deal with this thing.
Right.
On ahead.
I mean, it's basically, yeah. I was gonna say it's basically, and I love to bring in the Potter references. It's basically Ron and Hermione at the chessboard, during the first movie in the first book. So, but
well, yeah, the parallel still stands. Never mind, because I'm about to say there is a little difference there, but yeah, it still stands.
Because one character has to get to the end. That's really the point of it. So
sure.
So there's as I mentioned earlier, there's really a philosophical, existential kind of monologue, or actually it's a dialogue here, because it's between the aspect of the living tribunal and Jane Foster, basically coming up with a reason for death to continue its existence in the Marvel universe, and that was the crux of the story.
Right, and I'm surprised they didn't bring up well, actually they kind of did, but not to the extent that I was of calling it like just blatantly, meaning like, hey, eventually, well, so the Cancerverse, which is a recent thing that's been brought up with Annihilation, got mentioned, and there was and with that mention, it was like, well, okay, if it becomes a world that doesn't end up dying, it could end up more like the Cancerverse is, which wasn't the way I was thinking about that. I was thinking it was like, okay, well, if nobody dies and the Earth gets overpopulated, but they just kind of blended that into, hey, it could become the Cancerverse from that, and not just like it's going to get overcrowded and no resources and blah blah blah, that kind of this and that and the other.
Right, because when they say no death, they mean no death of anything.
Right.
And that's the and uncontrolled growth, uncontrolled creation is essentially the Cancerverse principles.
Right. So the fact that they went there with that, I was like, okay, that makes sense, especially since, like, if you're reading up, or if you've read, like, if Jane Foster was the only book you were reading, like, you would not have realized that, okay, hey, that is a thing that has come up fairly kind of recently.
Right.
But at the same time, it still played just as, different. It's just the same if you hadn't, because, especially if you knew what the Cancerverse was in the first place, which, again, especially if you're a newer reader, you kind of wouldn't know so much of.
Right. So, I mean, that's the crux of the book.
Yeah. It was a start, a good, it basically finished that quest, and then it wrapped up that story, and it's going into another arc next next issue.
I thought it was just a really solid read just because it did deal with high concepts and really forced you to really think.
Mhm.
And superhero books sometimes aren't known for making you think. So I definitely
true.
appreciated this book maybe forcing every reader to take a step back and just think a little bit about about their concepts, about each reader's concepts or preconceived notions about several things.
I would like to believe that it depends on the reader, because sometimes there are those folks that'll read this like, okay, it was a good book and all that, but they're not really thinking that much more over the book itself.
Right. There's always those.
Yeah.
So I wanted to just point out that there is something that Al Ewing left us with. And
Yes.
that is a guide to phonetic Yorkshire, how to horse. It's published by, like Marvel decided to let everyone see it. It's something that Al Ewing wrote to help future writers write dialogue for Mr. Horse,
Right.
Valkyrie's ride.
Yeah, which according to that thing in the back of the book, they was like, yeah, they weren't going to let him do that unless you provided that that guide.
Oh, you mean go on to another book? I gotcha.
Right. Yeah, because otherwise they basically was like, yeah, they weren't going to let him use the accent unless somebody else could come along and pick it up, because no one else would know how to write that outside of him. So they would just drop the accent if that, or that, at least that was the implication anyway. So yeah, so you get a chance to read this book and you read that, you should check it out. It's actually kind of amusing.
It's informative
For sure.
It's pretty amazing to see how just a local, not even I guess you could say it was a dialect, but it's just a local dialect of English, of the English language in Yorkshire is so vastly different from what we know.
Which leads me to kind of wonder how, because I think he is British, right?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. So that pretty much kind of goes into what I would have asked him if I saw him, but I'm curious as to why that particular dialect was the one that he went with.
Oh, I think it's there in the notes, is that the Yorkshire has strong roots with the Vikings.
Okay. Which now that I think about it, I guess that does make sense, because I remember when, like, the first issue and Mr. Horse showed up, I think I kind of looked up to see what his dialect was similar to, and I was like, okay, and I found that, and it's like, okay, that makes some sense.
Yep, there it is.
Regardless, this was a good issue. Still, Al Ewing will be missed on this book, but hey, he's got a couple of
he's not really going anywhere.
Right. Yeah, he's just going off to do his own stuff, so.
Right. I would just mention that the two other night nurses that I see under Wiki are Georgia Jenkins, who is African American, and Christine Palmer. So this might be Christine Palmer.
That might be the case. I want to say
that's the name of the character from Doctor Strange,
right?
The movie,
right?
Who's a doctor? Actually,
I want to say the Georgina girl might be pretty much Claire, except for
except for the name, right?
Right. I want to say that's the template they took off of. So yeah, there's been a couple of them, regardless. But yes. Oh, also real quick, the art in this issue, continue to be good, and I think next issue we're going to get Cafu back on the book.
Yep.
So it'll be noticeable, but not that noticeable to say, hey, this is because Cafu's art is pretty great. So it'll be good to get back to that. But at the same time, like this art, the art in the book has been pretty great. Matter of fact, let me get a name real quick for. It is Per Perez. Yeah, as the guest artist. So solid work. Let's see. Yeah, the only other thing you can say about this book is something happened to one of the characters, but that's a a less of an issue, I'd say.
Right. I mean, I guess the best thing we can say is that the team does not emerge unscathed from their mission. They do suffer a loss. We won't spoil exactly what's lost.
A kind of a loss, yeah, basically. So,
Mhm.
but you know, even if we were to explain it, you'd be like, huh?
Mm-hmm.
So, which is somebody we mentioned in passing, you know, when we started talking about this. So,
Absolutely.
let's move on to, I guess, since we're on.
What's next?
How about Avengers? You did say you read Avengers, right?
Yep.
Cool. So Avengers are still out in space. The teams are still kind of split up. The Iron Widow, aka the War Widow, is busting chops left and right until a certain silverish being comes into play.
We could just call him Silver Surfer Black for now.
Yeah.
Because we don't really know how he's been reclassified.
Yeah, we know his attitude's kind of changed a bit, and
right,
he's intangible and all that kind of good match, which they do. You know, they do. Well, I guess it's kind of weird the way they played with that, but at the same time, I feel like, yeah, something. You know, even like Division, who could become intangible, could still get hurt.
Right, and it's also magic, and that's the thing. When you're dealing with magic, it just doesn't have as many rules. So,
yeah. Well, yeah,
you know, and we'll get to that because, as Roddykat mentioned, the team is split up, but they are on the verge of coming together as the star brand that they're looking for is quote unquote being birthed. And that's a big thing that turns into a revelation at the end of the issue. But before we get to that, I wanted to just mention that what Roddykat was referring to is that Ghost Rider, Blade, and Boy Thing are, you know, basically left to try to recuperate and or die under the heat of a red sun, I think it is.
That is correct.
And, you know,
well, like, yeah, Blade was affected by the red sun. It's everybody else. Right. Ghost Rider got messed up when he was fighting the Surfer last issue, if I'm not mistaken.
So, I mean, basically, Blade is like Superman, and Boy Thing decides to take matters into his own hands,
or uses his matter in Blade's own hand.
Right. And you have to remember, Boy Thing is an offshoot of Man Thing, and what's Man Thing's call? His nom de guerre, his trademark, I guess, motto.
Yeah.
You know, what is it? All things that no fear burn at the touch of Man Thing.
Exactly, and that apparently happens in this because Blade gets a Boy Thing armor, who in a symbiote like manner can adjust to I guess the wearer's will. Or, well, he's got a will of his own, obviously, but you know, he seems to be able to contemplate what the user, in this case, Blade, wants
or needs,
yes. So, and becomes a physical Blade,
right? And the Black Widow remarks, "Hey, shouldn't you be burning too?" And Blade is saying, "Yes, I'm burning from head to toe underneath this layer of Boy Thing that is covering me from head to toe."
Exactly. So the armor is keeping him ambulatory, but not necessarily helping the situation all that much.
Right. Oh, because eventually, the power, basically, is paramount to everything else. So,
and basically, Blade's just like, if I die out here in space, I'm gonna haunt the Avengers for the rest of their lives.
Right.
Like, which that was kind of funny. He cracked a joke, which he's not necessarily known for being all jokey.
Right. Meanwhile, Captain Marvel is taking on Firelord. She-Hulk is taking on Terrax, and Captain America is trying not to get killed in this battle between really, really big space-powered people.
Right.
And There's
Before you go any further with that, so the three ex-heralds of Galactus are basically teamed up to prevent the coming of the Star Brand, hence why they're fighting the Avengers.
right.
So continue.
Right. And all I just wanted to add was that this particular group is dealing with Thor still being in his 95% brood stage. He's still dealing with the effects of the brood infection, remarkably still.
Yeah.
Given his
95, but yeah, it was like they've kind of walked about also, which Cap does something slightly unusual as opposed to last issue where he was basically trying to talk Thor down from his brood-like state. He basically uses this to advantage, which that's a Cap thing to do. He's like, well, hey, we got this thing, we're going to use it to our advantage some kind of way. And basically 6 brood Thor onto Terrax. While he and Captain Marvel, Captain Marvel still dealing with Fire Lord, but that whole that little conversation with Captain Marvel and Fire Lord was like, if that didn't come out of some social media business, I don't know what did. Because she was like, hey, I guess you want me to he's basically saying, hey, you're outmatched and outgunned. And she was like, oh, I bet you want me to smile, huh? And he's like, well, actually, that would. And then she just clocks him. So I'm pretty sure that was deliberate. That was pretty good. But yeah, at the end of this all, we find out we now have a face to go with the birth of the Star Brand. To which I'm sure that that will drop next issue, and I'm fairly certain that the person, I suspect if things go the way they tend to go in comic books, that the person holding the birth in is not going to be around afterwards.
That's likely. It's likely, but I have to give Jason Aaron credit. The way they paced this issue, excuse me, it definitely took me by surprise. You're saying?
I said they definitely dropped some hints, some hints along with it.
Oh, right. They definitely did. But at the same time, it still took me by surprise, even though I understood the hints. So it was definitely a well laid surprise for most readers. It's pretty interesting to see all these gigantically powered cosmic creatures, cosmic beings, amongst them Kalark, aka Gladiator, Majestor of the Shi'ar Empire,
right.
Going toe to toe with the current somewhat wielder of the Star Brand, because that's a big hint as to what exactly you find on the cliffhanger last page of this issue.
Right. Someone has the power, and apparently we also find out how that person got caught up with, how the Star Brand caught up with this person.
Well, we at least get a hint. So
they pretty much tell it, but yeah, we don't have the full story, but we know where at least the two entities kind of met up. We don't know who this person is.
Right.
And some part of me was like, okay, I suppose we're supposed to know this person. But that doesn't necessarily mean it was true, which turned out to be, as far as we know, is not true. And this is not the first time something like this has kind of happened before, because back in the day, matter of fact, yeah, there was a version of Captain Britain that came out of the Avengers because of, well, it wasn't because of a death, because Captain Britain was still around, but he wasn't around then. But somebody ended up getting the powers of Captain Britain under some sort of duress.
Yeah, that was bad.
Yeah,
that was a really bad era of the Avengers. So,
well, there is, yeah. I mean, it was not great, but
I want to say it was Chuck Austin.
Was it that far? I don't think it was that far back.
I think it was the Lionheart. That's what that was called.
Yeah. I don't know what that. Now you want to go see, and I kind of don't want to find that out.
I know.
But regardless, just to saying, all the same, a similar thing has happened before.
It was Lionheart.
Yeah,
and it was Chuck Austin, bastard.
Wow, called it.
I was about to say, man, there's ladies and gentlemen of our listening and viewing audience, I've said it before. We have read more comics sometimes than we can remember. So,
it's Greg Land on. No, I'm just kidding.
No. Unfortunately, I mean, this particular book had Olivier Coipel on it, which was good, but it had Chuck Austin, aka Chuck Beckham, on it, which is bad.
There was a book with a Greg Land cover that I was gonna send to you over Twitter, and I totally forgot about it.
Oh, don't remind me. Last week's Spider-Gwen.
Was that what it was?
Yeah. Last week's Spider-Gwen. I wanted to scream when I saw it. I was like, I have to buy this. There's no alternate variant cover.
I was like, I should show this.
Seriously, one of the few times I can't get a variant cover.
As you can tell, he and Agent 70 and PC_Dirt are big fans of Greg Land's art.
Oh, Greg Land.
But anyway, back to the Avengers.
Greg Land, hold on. Yeah, I've got just a few sound effects to throw at Greg Land's way.
No.
Anyway.
I mean, you could have given him a Statler and Waldorf at least, not that, but
no, this is what he gets.
Okay, there's that, sure. But yeah, like I said, round off the talk of the Avengers. Yeah, we will. There is one other piece of the puzzle in the Star Brand thing that's yet to unfold, and I suppose as She-Hulk is one. Actually, She-Hulk was basically also. I don't know if she intentionally, if that was the intent, but she was basically like, yeah, we're gonna help this person with their powers, which they've done before, sort of, and that's part of their jobs, is it? And because she didn't know, because obviously sometimes they have had people who with burgeoning powers that they've tried to matter of fact, even Robbie, even though he's had his for a minute, but they've tried to shepherd people in the use of their powers, not always to a great extent, but but they have done it before. So that was basically a clue into it. It's like, well, they got some babysitting coming into the future, possibly actually to be known if they go the way that it looks like they're going. So I suppose we will find out. That whole thing will drop next issue, which will be issue 30. Actually, I want to go back real quick and something about it's kind of sort of related with Jane Foster. I don't know if you noticed it, but there was a kind of a Quasar type. I don't know. It felt very Quasar-ish in the beginning of that issue with her, because every time she says, well, her all weapon, gives her the knowledge that she needs,
right,
in situations that she needed, and that just kind of reminded me of Quasar.
Okay.
And I feel like, and that, which also was like, where's Quasar? Because I know he's still around. I know there's another Quasar still around, and I'm like, why hasn't this Quasar shown up in Avengers helping them out with this? Also,
that's excellent.
But that's all.
It's an excellent question.
Yeah. So next up, if you want to suggest a book,
yeah, I'm gonna.
I think we only got like one more that we've even remotely read or skimmed together.
Right. I mean, I can talk about Iron Man 2020 #1.
Okay.
This is the launch book for the Iron Man 2020 event, and it's appropriately dated, appropriately launched at the beginning of the year 2020. It is written by Dan Slott and Christos Gage, and the art is by Pete Woods, and the art is pretty solid throughout, with letters by VC's Joe Caramagna. The premise has really grown out of the pages of Tony Stark Iron Man, and the crux of it is that there is incoming robot revolution, as well as you know, an extinction level threat that is coming to Earth that Arno Stark is looking to defeat. It's going to be something that develops over the course of this crossover. In the meantime, we have more robot and we'll use LMDs as a prime example. More robot uprisings coming in and out of the Marvel universe. We also understand that Tony Stark's whereabouts are unknown. His current status is known to the general public because of the events of Tony Stark, Iron Man,
Right.
and Arno Stark is up, excuse me, is front and center as the new Iron Man, and Banetronics has taken over Stark Unlimited. So
basically, what is old is new again.
right. So ultimately, where we find ourselves, at the end of this issue is really establishing the starting point for this crossover. We get the players into position. We find out where James Rhodes is. We find out where Machine Man is. He's the one essentially leading the robot revolution.
Of course.
Excuse me.
Maybe that's where we finally get the next wave. Maybe that's where it came from.
Possible. We also find out where the robot revolution is being staged from, and where possible other characters that we're familiar with are going to find themselves as part of it.
So I did not read the book, but I kind of skimmed it. So and I asked Agent 70 beforehand, which seems to be apparent. Did you need to read Tony Stark Iron Man in order to get what's going on here? Which sounds like yes, but also no, because from what he told me, at the back of this issue is a timeline of the events weaving in and out of Tony Stark Iron Man. And apparently the reading list for the 2020 event also goes through a couple of books, or at least one or two books that doesn't seem to be joined to this. As in, like, because there's what Wolverine shows up on the reading list. Oh, okay.
It's Wolverine.
Is it? You sure about that? I don't think so.
Because I'm 100% sure. I can assure you, it's Wolverine, as an robot.
Because I thought that at first also, but then I saw that same symbol in the front of that eye looking thing in front of the rest of the books also.
No, you have to trust me on this. It's Wolverine, and the character is. And this is a minor spoiler for anyone looking to pick this up, but it might also be an incentive for someone to pick this up. Anyone who is a fan of Larry Hama's Wolverine run in the 90s will remember an android by the name of Albert and his little sidekick LCD.
Yeah, definitely doesn't ring a bell to me.
Right. So there was an android Wolverine running around named Albert. But they couldn't very well call this book Albert, so they're calling it Wolverine, and it's pretty. I'm definitely curious to read that book, because that is definitely one of those runs on the solo Wolverine book. The second, I believe, is the second or third second volume of Wolverine, if you count the first volume being the Miller Claremont limited series. The second volume had a couple of decent runs during the course of it's a pretty long run, and the Hama run that had Mark Silvestri on it is a definite highlight.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Looking back on it, because it looked weird. It looked like it was just like almost a bracket but I do see where it looks like. Yeah. Okay. I trust you on that one. But also looking at this checklist, and in skimming in the book, because I didn't read the book, but I skimmed through it enough to know that apparently Rhodey is back in the War Machine armor again, because he's had an issue with being in armor, rightly so, given what's happened to him over the years.
Right. He had a little bit of PTSD post fighting Thanos,
basically.
Right. And
before that also, because remember when he burnt up in the classic armor too, because
Right. He also had to work his way through that by need as opposed to by want. In the final issues of the Tony Stark Iron Man book, just prior to this. So,
gotcha. Which nothing says therapy like imminent danger.
Sure.
But also,
I think he's going to be leading the Force Works book.
Which that's what I was getting to next, because in that same panel, you also see apparently Force Works is around, and that I'm not even gonna lie, that made me giddy to no end. I don't know if I don't think it's going to be, which we kind of knew this was coming, and coming out of the book, because I'm fairly certain there was news of probably a couple of months ago about it. But this nevertheless still makes me giddy, and I don't think it's the original team. My mom
because I don't think Century is there. Oh no!
I don't think was that Century was not the same Century, was it? Because that was like an alien, like.
No, it wasn't called Century. It was called Century, right.
And Scarlet Witch, and and Wonder Man, and thank God U.S. Agent's not around. Well, he is around, but
he is around. He's around in this incarnation.
Yeah, but nevertheless, I saw Force Works and was like, okay, let's get it. So, which, by the way, if you have Disney Plus and you and the 90s Iron Man, not the Armored Adventures, but the other one, it's basically all of it. It basically should have been titled Iron Man and Force Works.
Right. I've still not watched that. I'm dreading watching that, to be honest.
I remember watching that like back in the day, and I was like, okay.
Oh, yeah, like the late 90s, right?
Right. So, and yeah, it's not like, out of all of the animated series, like granted, the 90s stuff of that area was not great. Like even the Fantastic Four stuff wasn't really great. Like Avengers United We Stand, I still have a fondness of it, but it wasn't great. That stuff kind of was around in that same area, but Iron Man Force Works and the synth heavy theme music just still kind of plays in my ear right now. But then again, most of those were kind of the same. I think the same. They laid on the same synth on the most of those. Right. Well, with the exception of Fantastic Four, because that one was actually kind of catchy. Regardless, that's cool to see, and I don't know if we're gonna get shades of that, or even the classic, spinoff of the wackos, such as Force Works happens to be. But we will see in a month, I guess, because that's coming in a couple of weeks. So,
right. I'm definitely looking forward to the next issue of this Iron Man 2020 book, because my curiosity has definitely been piqued.
Yes.
So we'll see how it goes in the next issue.
Yeah, I have been curious about what's been going on with also Ironheart's going to be a part of this, and she's got a couple of books coming out with that. I'm happy to see that, because I love Riri's an awesome character. But catching up with her, well, not her last volume, but the volume before that, when she was Invincible Iron Man and the Tony Stark Iron Man stuff, catching up with all that, which granted some of that doesn't have anything to do with what's going here, but the last volume of Iron Man, this, and the Tony Stark Iron Man stuff, I want to kind of catch up on going into this. So hopefully I get a chance to do it before the next issue comes out. And with that, I think it's safe to say we can pretty much go to rapid fire, because neither one of us have that many more books to
No problem. I will spin it up. All right. Let me run through mine.
Sure.
Dire Wraiths #1. This is published by IDW, the folks who...
Excuse me. Isn't it called ROM Dire Wraiths? Because I thought on this...
It could be.
Yeah, I think it is, because I thought I saw it on, especially on Comixology, but I think it's also on the thing.
Right. It looks like it looks like the title is ROM Dire Wraiths. I just took it from how we had it saved.
Right.
How our review copy was saved. So ROM Dire Wraiths. Essentially, this is what IDW is using as their version of the Dire Wraiths as we formerly knew them at Marvel. We still know them at Marvel, but back then we knew them as the arch enemies of the Space Knights of Galador. Now they are the arch enemies of the Soul Star Knights of whatever. in IDW. I dropped ROM ages ago, and I am just reading this out of sheer curiosity, and my curiosity has been satisfied, not piqued, and I'm good with that. My understanding is that these diorites are this isn't the first time we've seen them, but it's the first time we're sort of seeing them in the context of ROM.
I need to actually. Well, I should check that out real quick. I should have did it earlier before we but when we were talking prior to the show. But so yeah, the diary have shown up previously in the probably 3 or 4 or 5 years ago when Hasbro was trying to get their shared universe together, and so G.I. Joe, Transformers, Micronauts, ROM,
and the Visionaries.
Yeah, all of those they basically put all together. Well, Mask, excuse me, was also, but Visionaries was not technically a part of that. But as far as the event stuff, because remember they had the whole big event that basically blended Transformers, G.I. Joe, and all those other properties together, and Mask was basically like a part of G.I. Joe, and somehow the diorites were involved. And they were kind of the diorites we know if you're of a certain vintage, you know, from the Marvel, but kind of. So yeah, there was a whole lot, and apparently that didn't work out all that well because we haven't really seen not much really came out of it. Like G.I. Joe's still going around; they got a book now, but have none of that's planned into it. G.I. Transformers around; they kind of went in a whole different direction.
Sure.
So yeah, that whole thing, like it was kind of loosey goosey, but it was also kind of interesting. Plus, we were going to get a new Mask book out of it, so I was kind of curious for that, and I was, reading it for that, if not much else. Because that whole, I don't know if you ever get a chance to check that stuff out. You can. Oh, Action Man was also a part of that. Which, if you're not British, you don't know too much about who that is.
Who? So anyway, right. So that's Diorites number 1. I'm not going to look at that any longer. Undiscovered Country number 3. This is that Scott Snyder, Charles Soule co-written book with art by Giuseppe Camuncoli. We are on issue number 3, and there have been some interesting twists to the story since kind of a weird issue number 1, because I think our expectations were definitely subverted, where I think a lot of people did not think it was going to be kind of a Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome type thing. And it sort of turned into one, but now it's sort of not, because there are definitely more sci-fi elements to it. It appears that, spoiler alert, for anyone who's intending to read this, the spoiler is that it appears that the inside, the part of the United States within the sea walls seems to be moving at a different speed / time than the rest of the world, and that has definitely got something to do with what has happened to the U.S. and what story Soule and Snyder probably intend to tell. So
it has nothing to do with Letter 44, does it?
What's that? No,
it has nothing to do with Letter 44.
No.
Okay, totally different. Okay.
Yep. And last but not least is Legion of Superheroes number 3. Damian Wayne spends a short time in the future, probably because he apparently turns into a very bad man, according to the Legion. The rest of this Legion story seems to be moving at a snail's pace. We are 4 issues in, and I think we're finally going to get some sort of real action to the story. So I'm having some issues. Maybe my recollection of the Legion of Superheroes banter and dialogue, I guess the version of teen dialogue that I remember from the 80s is vastly different than the teen dialogue that exists now, especially coming off of the keyboard of one Brian Michael Bendis. And it is, I can see some saying that it's entertaining. I can see some saying that it is somewhat true to life. I'm having some trouble with it, but I guess it's just going to take me a little more time to adjust. Um,
Or you realize that it's Bendis and you're never going to reconcile that, and it's just going to be what it is.
Could be. I mean, I was able to read Miles and Gonki and all of them for a long time, so you know, maybe it's just the bigger cast of characters and the different voices that he's choosing to give them is what I'm having problems with right now.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of Jokers in that book from what I've seen.
There are a lot of characters. That is no question.
Which now Bendis is also writing Young Justice, and Bendis has a slight. He's not doing terribly bad on Young Justice. There's a couple of whatevers, but that are kind of bothersome. But he has had issues writing group books before. Sure. He has written. Granted, he is also the one who brought a certain cachet to the Avengers, especially with in a certain light back in the day. He even put Luke Cage on the team, so it is what it is. But nevertheless, he still has some issues writing team books sometimes, and it sounds like adding more people to the pot may be exasperating that. I don't know.
Sure. All right, so I am done with my books.
So actually, because of that, kind of plays into this week's Teen Titans number 38, kinda. Or maybe not. It could be coincidental, because basically what you said about Damian, maybe what he finds out in this issue. So in this issue, through the events of last issue, they got caught by the other, whose identity we find out. And spoiler alert, I'm just going to go ahead and say it because it's stupid and it's DC and it's comic books. But apparently it is a clone of Damian that's been grown, and that was thought to be killed by his mom. Back during some Batman book. I can't remember which one it was. It doesn't matter. But apparently they've been Frankenstein back together again, and they basically took over the other's empire, which there was a person called the Other, but he basically killed them and took his place. And now he wants Damian to take his place over the criminal syndicate, because you can't do because the stuff that Damon's been trying hasn't been working. So he's basically saying that, hey, you could do better if you ran the criminal organization as opposed to trying to end it. But during this, he mulls it over, and apparently this clone has the ring that holds Jen, who had been sealed away. Because thanks to Roundhouse, Damon gets back in touch with her through the help of the Other, and basically through a series of events and of fights, and Roundhouse basically coming back to save the team after he basically sabotaged the team. They are all back together again and are trying to find a way to release Jen from her imprisonment. So basically this whole thing was which started off as a thing from like months ago with Damian and Red Arrow trying to figure out who the Other is. Well, that's been taken care of. And now from that, they're basically saying, well, we know who that is. That's been taken care of. And now we got to go figure out how to get Jen out of this ring. And that's what's starting up the next arc of this book. And it's apparently it's a teaching moment, because Damon even said, it was like, you know what, everything that's been happening, yeah, we can't do that anymore. So now I'm going to trust you folks as a team, and I'm actually going to be like I said I needed to be in the first place, which we'll see how that works, because he's still he's still the son of an Al Ghul, or the grandson of an Al Ghul. Well, should be son of an Al Ghul, because Talia is mom. So we'll see how that works out. Regardless, a new arc coming up. We'll see what comes of it. And actually, no, not my last book. Superman's Pal, Jimmy Olsen, number 7. So I'll go ahead and go there, because that's not the order that I had in the first place. This book is still kind of some nonsense, but it's actually pretty good. This is the Matt Fraction book that kind of goes all over the place. So Jimmy's, after a series of circumstances, Jimmy's kind of not necessarily on the run, but no, he's somebody's coming for his life. He thought it was Lex Luthor, and apparently Lex Luthor is not the one behind him, but he kind of knows. He's trying to also figure out who's trying to kill Jimmy Olsen. So Jimmy's been moving from place to place. He was just in Gotham as of last issue, but Batman told him, you got to go. In this issue, he ends up in Opal City, which is funny enough with his sister, and who says, and I quote, "Welcome to Opal City. Hope you survive the experience."
Yeah.
So there's a lot of little things like that that is in this book. You may not know that much about Jimmy Olsen or the character. You don't really need to, but if you've liked Fracture's run on Hawkeye, this is not necessarily that, but this kind of brings some of that same irreverence and humor in it, and it's pretty good. So you should check it out if you are so inclined, because there's a bunch of things that are going on in the book. Because some of it has to do with his family history and and some other stuff, and his history with the Luthors, and again this other thing with the various things that he's gotten into over the years that kind of get addressed or whatever the case may be. So check that out. And my last book is one that I didn't intend to check out, but I did anyway. Ruins of Ravencroft, Sabretooth #1. So I think this is, I guess this is coming out of Absolute Carnage, because basically Marvel's version of Arkham Asylum was destroyed during the course of whatever happened there, but they're trying to build it back up, and you see Wilson Fisk and Misty Knight, Misty Knight, and a couple other people basically in the ruins of I keep wanting to call them Arkham, but I'm trying not to, Ravencroft, to try to figure out, to try to see what they can fix up, because they're trying to fix the place back up. They run into some issues with some monster types, almost Frankenstein monsters. Man-Wolf. And the reason why I bring up the Man-Wolf part is because Man-Wolf, as far as the adventures are concerned, is somewhere in the other realm. So I don't know when this is taking place. But nevertheless, he's on Earth helping Wilson Fisk with this little project. And like I said, Mr. Knight and the rest of them there. They run into an issue, but then it just cuts to, it just basically does a hard cut into the past of Ravencroft, which is the place, and the foundings of the place with, I think his name is Josiah Ravencroft or something like that. And of course, as the title would suggest, Sabretooth and Wolverine are somehow involved with this place, and Mr. Sinister in some kind of way. I will leave you to discover what the connection is, but two of those names you can pretty much guess, what happens with those two in a certain way, but not necessarily the way that you would expect. And of course, like I said, these are like one shots that are I guess are going to website. I don't know if this is going to be more of a 2099 or more of an Annihilation type of cohesion. But I was just kind of picked this one up. Well, I basically checked this out as a curiosity, because I really wasn't going to in the first place. But it was a light week, so we'll see if I may be tempted to check out the next book, whichever one it is coming out next week.
All right.
Yeah, and to see if there's any connective tissue to all of that, because I definitely didn't read Absolute Carnage. So, and that is it for me. We go to Clicks of the Week. And we have one click for one Tim Dog 98, and that would be Iron Man 2020 #1, because as he says, it's kind of a lackluster week, so he went with Iron Man 2020.
I think it's a solid pick. Like I said, it was an interesting kickoff to the robot revolution. But my click of the week, I think this week, is going to be Valkyrie Jane Foster #7.
Solid pick, as usual. I don't even know why I'm even taking so much time with this.
Right. I was about to say PCN_Dirt did not get us a click of the week pick this week.
No, he did not. So for myself, I don't know, Jimmy Olsen was actually all right. That Teen Titans wasn't too terribly bad either. As well as Valkyrie. You know what? I guess I will go with Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen, #7. That's out of field pick for me. So there we go with the clicks of the week. And now, before we go into the news section, can you give us an ad read, please?
Our first ad read of the night is for Blue Apron's meal delivery service. Blue Apron, you get fresh ingredients and incredible recipes delivered weekly to your door. Skip the grocery store and make incredible meals at home with Blue Apron, always shipped free right to your home. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can get $30 off your first Blue Apron order. To place your first order with $30 off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us. That's cspn.us. Then click on the Keep Our Podcasts free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down to the Blue Apron link and sign up for your first order. Blue Apron through cspn.us. Do it today. And here comes the news.
Before we start the news, actually, I want to give a happy 20th anniversary or birthday, I guess, if you will, to Star Trek Voyager, who started on this day, Thursday, not Thursday, on January 16th, apparently 25 years ago today. So okay. I know a lot of people. There are people who don't like Voyager. It had some spots in it, but it wasn't terrible. I had to
think about the music.
Well, I would say that's Deep Space Nine, but sure.
Oh, that's right. I'm like, wait, I can't remember what Voyager's music sounds like then.
It's fine. It was basically a standard. I mean, it wasn't Deep Space Nine, but it was basically standard.
Yeah, listen how I screwed that up because I can't even remember Voyager's music. Oh, sorry.
I can kind of remember.
You're the literal redheaded stepchild of my Star Trek memories.
At the time, it went on to be replaced by Enterprise by some, but which thing I still need to finish that. But regardless, it's 25th anniversary. It is also the birthday of Sade. So happy birthday, Sade, and Ali and a couple other people. Which that has nothing to do with comics.
Is it Aaliyah's birthday today too?
It is absolutely Aaliyah's birthday today.
Oh.
So rest in peace and happy birthday, baby girl. I'm sorry.
I was about to say I need a baby squeal for that one.
I know, right?
But anyway, moving on.
But moving on to the cinematic news, as we tend to do. Harley Quinn blows up the Joker in the final Birds of Prey trailer. I don't think that actually happened. People are suggesting that, but we never see that happen. So basically, if you've watched the Hollywood, did we talk about it last week? I can't remember. I don't think so. Yeah. So basically, there's a new Harley Quinn trailer for that Birds of Prey. Excuse me. There's a new Birds of Prey trailer out, but basically there was a lot of Harley Quinn in it, as it is wont to do. The first thing you see is the Harley Quinn blowing up the Acme. Actually, I want to say that looks like the Acme chemical plant from Tim Burton's Batman, but that's probably not the case. Regardless, she sees it blows up after some words, and people are taking that to see that the Joker is dead, but we don't get any kind of indication of one way or the other, just because his place blew up. And then the trailer goes on from there regardless. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, you should check it out. It's an interesting trailer. You get a little bit more, again, a lot more Harley Quinn and a little bit more on some of the other characters, including apparently Black Canary's trademark scream gets teased. Renee Montoya in the form of Rosa Perez is there. Apparently the little girl is Cassandra Cain. I didn't recognize that at first, because whatever. So yeah, I don't know. It's getting mixed talk on the internets. Kind of surprised. Well, actually, I was going to say surprised that no one didn't mention the accuracy of the comic accuracy of it, but I think there was actually some mention one way or the other of it. It doesn't really matter. It's a movie. Anyway, that's it. It's out there if you wanted to go check it out.
Next up, There's a new teaser for DC Stargirl that introduces Stripe and the Justice Society of America. So that's pretty cool. So go check out that teaser video.
Yeah, which is also kind of weird considering the JSAs also had been, including Stargirl, not this version, had shown up in the Arrowverse as recent as the last couple of years in Legends of Tomorrow. So it's kind of, I haven't seen this trailer yet, so I'm kind of curious as to how they play it. Next up, it's official. So we've talked about this in the past, but now it's official in that CW basically has ordered the Superman and Lois series to order, or has ordered a full season of the series. Excuse me. So congrats to that series, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah. Next up.
Grant Gustin thanks. Spoiler alert for anyone who's not up to date on the ending of the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover on the CW for a Crisis DCEU cameo with candid set photos. So Roddykat can turn off his audio.
No, I already know who it is. So
all right. So yeah. So yeah. Right. So it's it was spoiler alert. I'll ring the bell just in case there are people who have to catch up on their DVRs or something. Here we go. So surprise. Ezra Miller's Justice League Flash decided to show up on TV.
Yeah, that was actually probably the biggest surprise of apparently, if you look at the internets, because there were a lot of people, because there are people who have taken from this and have started doing their own, DC movie crossover. And there was even one stupid tweet that I was like, and I'm hoping this was a joke, but I don't think it was. Basically said that the MCU never had this level of continuity that the DC has, and then somebody posted a picture of the first season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. where Sam Jackson as Nick Fury.
Yeah, seriously. I'm like, what?
So I was like, okay, yeah, there you go. But anyway, so this, what's that?
So they're tripping. I'm like, they don't remember that when Marvel TV actually, tried to actively draw in, MCU.
Well, right. All of the seasons from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. were basically based off of whatever movie was coming out. But yeah, nevertheless, that it is what it is. Fans are stupid. So this was an interesting and unexpected crossover, and also has like I said, have put other crossovers in other people's minds. I believe I saw Supergirl, the TV Supergirl with Henry Cavill's Superman, which is kind of funny because there's already a Superman in this universe anyway. But nevertheless, some folks dream casting the potential crossovers that could come out of this. And we don't know if there's actually any plans to do anything like that, because they have, up until like a couple of years ago, they had stayed away from a lot of the Arrowverse was supposed to stay away from a lot of stuff, and they even said that like none of the Arrowverse people were never going to go to big screen, and even some of the properties like Batman weren't even going to show up in the Arrowverse, which they kind of have with Green Arrow, but even more so with Batwoman being a show now, so that maybe things are changing, maybe it's shock value, I don't know. But regardless, I am looking forward to seeing this, even though I don't care too much for Ezra Miller. But he's the second Ezra that I'm not too crazy about.
Yeah. That's fun.
for possibly a slightly same and or a different way, we don't know. But regardless, this was a treat for folks. And yes, that I think the Arrowverse crossover is now officially over, so we will probably only have another 2 more weeks of news about it, since we've had news about it for the last 10 months or so. Next up, speaking of that cameo, Crisis producer worked around Flashpoint film for Miller's Flash cameo. So apparently, Mark Guggenheim revealed that he worked quote unquote hand in hand with DC Entertainment to make sure that everyone was on the same page as far as the cameo in question. And I heard that the cameo was basically something as simple as they meet, they look at each other's costumes, and I think that was about it or something. I don't know.
Yeah, they have a little bit of interplay,
right? So, like I said, I'm just kind of looking forward to seeing that, but I have a good bit to catch up before that. That seems kind of fun. Still, I don't know what it means outside of that. Still doesn't really say at this point. Probably nothing.
right?
But regardless, so basically the long and the short of it is like they Guggenheim and DC Entertainment and everybody involved tried to make sure everybody worked together to get everything lined up so that this could happen. So, and apparently it did. So cool.
That works.
Sure. Next up,
Lucifer, musical episode recruits singer Debbie Gibson. Shout out to the 80s.
Yes.
According to Entertainment. Say again?
I said, I think we're not alone now.
Right. That wasn't Debbie Gibson.
I know, but
that was Tiffany, wasn't it?
No, but that's the funny part about it, because every time I think of Debbie Gibson, even though I know she's been in, that's not her. I've always think of that song for some stupid reason.
That's funny.
It's weird.
According to Entertainment Weekly, singer-songwriter Debbie Gibson will appear in the episode, which is entitled Bloody Celestial Karaoke Jam. She will play Shelley Bittner, a controlling helicopter mother who won't let her teenage son JJ have any say in his own future. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So musical episodes, all the rage these days.
There you go.
They kind of are, sort of, As a matter of fact, yeah, check out the Flash and Supergirl ones. Those were actually pretty good. You can blame Buffy the Vampire Slayer for that. Anyway, in some possible news, HBO Max series stars Green Lantern series stars two Lanterns and Sinestro, apparently. So there is a Green Lantern series in development at HBO Max, and it is an origin story of not one but two core members. I would hazard a guess as to who those two Green Lantern core folks would be. Just but also features Sinestro, a longtime Green Lantern Corps villain, who actually started out as the Lantern, if I'm not mistaken, in one. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Is that his original canon, or is that like something that came along later?
No, I think that's original.
Yeah, I don't know, because like my Green Lantern or whatever. But so he started out as a Lantern, and then the fact that that wonderful Green Lantern movie I'm not doing that. We're not gonna. The less we say about the Green Lantern movie, the better. But basically, according to the Wrap, which I guess is so I should caveat something, because before we go further, I said last week that I was going to try not to go through too many rumors stuff, because, and you will find out why with a story that's coming up. But sometimes you gotta let something slide, and sometimes you gotta know when to fold them, know when to hold them, and know when to walk away, and all that kind of good mess. That being said, hey, this show supposedly will be spanning several decades and focus on the origins of two major Green Lanterns on Earth, like I've already said, and Sinestro. So the show is still in development, but we don't know when it's going to happen. It says HBO's Green Lantern series has not been announced, has not yet announced a cast or release date. The streaming service is due to launch in May 2020. So releasing, we know when that's going to happen, if not the show. Next.
Animated miniseries Aquaman, King of Atlantis, produced by the director of the 2018 DC movie James Wan, is heading to HBO Max. Wan will Say again?
I said, all right.
Wan will executive produce the 3-part series, which picks up just as Aquaman takes over as King of Atlantis.
I guess we can reasonably assume that the voice characters of the movie the characters in the movie are going to show back up again, but we absolutely don't know that.
No idea.
Yep. So yeah. So we got a production team. We have showrunners on here, but yeah, we don't have any other cast outside of that. So I think these next couple we're going to take all in. I'll take these 1, 2, next 3, let's say.
All right.
Because Star Wars 9 quietly killed off Nien Nunb, but didn't tell anybody. Spoiler alert.
Uh-huh.
So apparently, and I guess part of this is coming, may not be coming from the visual dictionary. Who knows? Because that's pretty much where all information flow, and not the darn movie. So recently there was some, I don't want to call it debate, but basically got brought up the fact that whether Nien Nunb was alive or dead at the end of Rise of Skywalker. Again, spoiler alert if you haven't seen the movie yet, but it has been a month almost, so sorry. We last saw Nien Nunb, and I don't even think we talked about this. I think we may have mentioned them on the Treasure Edition, which is basically still out there if you want to go check that out.
Please do.
Yes. We put some time and effort. We had to get some stuff off our chests. Anyway, we saw because of Palpatine's big Force lightning thing, we saw Nien Nunb's X-wing go down, or spiral down, I should say, but we didn't see him crash or anything, so we don't know whether he made it or not. Basically, going to the next story, Star Wars writer confirms death of another classic hero in Rise of Skywalker, and that hero being Nien Nunb from said downward spiral from said lightning. So apparently Nien Nunb, and the fact that he didn't show up at the end during the celebration also, I guess, what sparked it for some people. So according to one of the writers, it's confirmed Nien Nunb died, which I thought he did too, because I was like, well, we saw him go down, and even though we didn't see the body or the crash or anything, that's, I assumed that was it, because I don't think, because at the time of the lightning force, and who knows where he was at the time, like, I don't think he got power back in time to not crash. That's just me. But anyway, and that to round us out, apparently a Star Wars veteran denies report that Nien Nunb died in Rise of Skywalker. So veterans Star Wars performer Mike Quinn believes Nien Nunb survived Star Wars Rise of Skywalker despite confirmation from Ray Carlson, author of the film's official novelization, which that's what sparked it, because even the parody account for Nien Nunb was like, there's a novelization made to sell books, and that's not canon. And I'm like, okay, you're stupid. But anyway, so because of this book, they're saying that it's perished, and everything I just said, prior to that is still whatever it is. So, and Quinn says, yes, he survived. They would have shown the ship exploding. You see the Tantive 4 coming into land at the end as they are celebration. You still don't see Nien Nunb, though. And again, we got confirmation from a Star Wars writer. So it is what it is on that one. I saw this out there on the Twitters, and I was like, this is kind of dumb, but also pretty good. Because I saw people going back and forth, and even the articles came out of it was kind of like the first one was like, yeah, they may have killed off Nien Nunb, but nobody knows what's the truth or not. So, yeah. Anyway, next up.
You going to take the third one too, or?
Oh, that was the third one. The dude that
the dead. All right, so quietly killed off. I gotcha.
Yeah.
So Star Wars 9, how Leia got back the Tantive 4 in Rise of Skywalker. Okay.
So guess what? You guess where this is where this information is coming from?
The visual dictionary.
Hey,
goodness gracious! I didn't even read the article.
You didn't have to.
Goodness gracious.
So yeah, apparently, according to the visual dictionary, the Tantive 4 was stowed away to an Imperial shipyard. I guess in actually, I'm not sure when. It says basically goes through the time I heard she ended up getting it back before Last Jedi. I'm not going to go through all of that. I mean, it's really not much, but still, it got taken. It got brought back some kind of way.
Okay.
Visual dictionary, yay! Next up, a Star Wars Battlefront 2 character could appear in The Mandalorian Season 2. Not only this, I will go so far as to say, because I didn't pull the rest of it, but also basically because of a recent leak about something that could be going on in Season 2. There are some characters, well, there are returning characters and there are new characters that could potentially be joining the cast of The Mandalorian, including one Janina Gavankar, who played the main character of Star Wars Battlefront 2, the most recent Battlefront 2, because there's 2 of those, who played an Imperial officer. But the leak also mentions, matter of fact, the leak photo to the tweet is in the is in here, and if you're watching the video, you can see said leak on the screen, and there's a couple of names, or there's one other name that is of potential interest in the form of Chloe Bennett as Chalana Afra.
Ooh.
Exactly. So Dr. Afra could possibly be in The Mandalorian Season 2 if this is correct.
That's some pretty on-spot casting too.
Yeah, kind of. I thought about it. I was like, you know what? I didn't even think about that, but that's not terrible. Also, possibly Mon Mothma may show up.
You said Mon Mothra. And
yes,
the match.
Yes,
I know, but I'm saying the way you said it was.
I know. I have done that for ages. I'm like, I've always called her Mon Mothra for some stupid reason.
Because then we're gonna get the little twin princesses around, you know, and singing Masura, Masura.
Exactly. So yeah, but like I said, according to this leak or this tweet, because basically what happened was somebody tweeted Janina Gavankar and asked her, is this true, because of what came out of the leak, and showed the tweet, and basically she responded with basically say, hey, you have to ask Dave Filoni.
There you go.
So, you know, one way or another, you know, it's either telling or not telling enough.
Right.
Bosk is also going to show up, but hey, he's a bounty hunter. I guess that makes some sense, some kind of way. Yeah. But mostly it's people returning. But yeah, the whole thing with like Afra may potentially show up in Mon Mothma.
She did it again.
I know. That's it. I'm never going to not do that. It's going to happen. And as well as Iden Versa, Jenny's Gavankar's character from Battlefront 2. Is some tempting news. It's pretty cool if it does happen like that. So, but we'll see if anything comes to light when the season 2, because we do know that it's getting to season 2. So, but we'll see. Next up,
gotcha. So the other stormtrooper that beat up on Baby Yoda tells his tale. That his name is Adam Pally. He's a comedian, and he appeared alongside Jason Sudeikis in the last episode of season 1, where Pally, as a scout trooper, commits the most heinous crime in the galaxy, that is punching Baby Yoda.
Right. And again, if you haven't seen the old YouTube Clerks video, you should go check that out. It has nothing to do with this, but I'm just saying it's pretty good. Because especially if you have seen their interaction minus the punching of Baby Yoda monsters, it's pretty good. Next up, Disney Plus's Obi-Wan Kenobi. Well, this is a rumor, by the way. I should point that out right off ahead. That Disney Plus's Obi-Wan Kenobi show will feature Jar Jar Binks. Or with a twist. So apparently, like I said, this is why we don't follow rumors up. But this is not the story I was talking about. But nevertheless, some rumor site with apparently a fairly decent track record for rumors says that a source told the outlet that the Gungan would meet up with Obi-Wan at some point in the series, with early CG work has already been done. source claims that Jar Jar will have a beard, and his conversation with Obi-Wan will revolve around the rise of the Galactic Empire, and maybe possibly this is me editorializing his fuck up in all of that happening. But hey,
Of course.
and there's no word if the guy who voiced who played Jar Jar is going to be returning. So who knows?
Ahmed Best.
Exactly. Who if I'm not mistaken, Disney have some troubles?
I have no idea.
I feel like he had a little bit of troubles around him, like after the fact. Not having to do with the character, but with some personal issues. But I don't know.
idea.
Regardless, if that's the case, boo. But hey, we're gonna watch it anyway. So,
all right. Next up, Iron Fist's Jessica Henwick, who played Colleen Wing. We find out that she auditioned for the part of Rey in the Star Wars sequel trilogy for 6 months and ended up not getting the part, which is a shame.
it is.
It would have been interesting to see a different take on the character in Jessica Henwick's hands.
For sure. And apparently, I don't think I'm fairly certain I did not pull this, but apparently there was another version of I want to say
Rise of Skywalker.
The
Colin Trevorrow script.
Yes. That there was that version that was apparently been talked about recently, and his version had Rey as basically as a nobody that Kylo Ben said in the first place. So, but apparently, I don't know. Some people are saying that they saw the script and it's actually pretty good, but I don't. Who knows? Who even cares at this point? We got what we got.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's what it is. Oh, by the way, Rebels rewatch. I am in the middle of season 3, and the only reason why I'm bringing this up has nothing to do with anything that's been reported so far. But if you've been watching my tweets, you've seen a couple of tweets around that. One of which being Sabine saying, "Sand, it gets everywhere."
I didn't even remember that.
Stupid sand, it gets everywhere, and I thought that was funny as hell. Anyway, next up. Taika Waititi courted for Star Wars movie and the internet goes, yes please, God yes please.
Sure. He got affection for the characters. He voiced IG-11 in The Mandalorian.
Speaking of that, I didn't pull this article either, but actually maybe I did. No, I didn't. There was an article saying that he has suggested that people do a petition to bring back IG-88. Which I found funny and kind of surprised that no one's done it before without his prompting. I don't think it's actually been done either, but still, it is out there. So yeah, he's being courted with the Star Wars movie. I wouldn't be surprised if he actually got one. Between him and the Russo brothers, I'm sure they could get almost any movie in the franchise they want.
Sure.
So. We'll see if that bears out. I feel like at this point, it's probably going to happen. Next up,
Marvel Studios is reportedly developing a new live-action Defenders project because now they've got the characters back, and that moratorium on them using them is pretty much almost over. So, good on you, Disney, Marvel Studios.
We'll see. They'll still find some way to be like, nah. But yeah, well, if this report has some wrinkling of truth, then we could potentially see that happening. There we go. Another rumor news and what I alluded to earlier, Disney Plus Hawkeye series has been delayed indefinitely, except for it has. As a matter of fact, I'm going to take the next two.
Okay.
It, according to The Verge and a Disney representative that told a reporter from The Verge that those rumors are completely inaccurate. So, yeah, this is why I say you may not want to run, sites may not want to run with rumors without actually finding out what's if there's some validity to it. I get it. There's some juice in rumor sites. Lord knows
clicks.
So what?
They want clicks.
Yeah, basically, and I get that, but at what cost? But now again, we don't know one way or the other because it could have been delayed, and this representative was basically saying, "Hey, trying to stamp out fires," or it could have been completely inaccurate, as I said, and somebody just started something for no reason. Because let's face it, there are people who don't want that show to go on for rental reasons. Which brings me to the middle chapter of this, in that after the initial rumor coming out, Adrienne Palicki offers to replace Hawkeye with Mockingbird series. Or rather, she says after the piece in question, excuse me, if you need someone, she says on her Twitter, I remember seeing this tweet too. I was like, yes, please. Anyway, she says, if you need someone to take something to take its place, that being the Hawkeye show, I might have an idea. You have my number at Marvel. And then it links to a GIF of her fighting, I believe from her first appearance in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And also a link to the article, which started the rumor.
Okay.
So I would love it if there was a Hawkeye, because she was supposed to have one, if you recall, for ABC, and then they scrapped that, or seemingly scrapped that. So why she would want to work with them again, I don't know. Well, actually, that's not true, but whatever. So it is what it is. We don't know if that Hawkeye thing was actually true or not, but the fact that she came out like that, I love that part. Next up,
Avengers Endgame won Best Action Movie at the Critics' Choice Awards, so congratulations to them.
And in tow, I believe, again, another article I did not put in the lineup, but I believe either Joker won or there was a think piece out there about Joker basically being the movie that kills the stigma on video game, on comic book movies, in winning awards. And someone promptly mentioned both Black Panther and Into the Spider-Verse.
Right.
Because I'm sitting here like, yeah, that was a dumb thing to do. But also, like you just said, people trying to get clicks. Anywho, Disney confirms the New Mutants is part of the MCU.
Now, I read something that this still may not be the case.
Exactly.
Well, you can go on and tell the story, and then you can add in the part that it seems like we both read.
So basically, according to a D23 newsletter, there was a section in there that kind of mentions offhand New Mutants being a part of
MCU.
Of the MCU. That part has been taken out of the newsletter not shortly after that. As a matter of fact, it says oh, never mind. Yeah. But yeah, that part has been taken out, and they kind of has been a backtrack on whether that is actually the case or not. So we still don't actually know if that is the case. Which is weird that we still have to go through that at this point, given the fact that, well, okay, all of the pieces are back in place and all under one roof. Why couldn't it be? But again, this is something that's going to come up in a story in a minute, actually.
Sure.
Because did you have something else to add to that, or
no?
Okay. Morbius trailer, first look. Jared Leto talks debut as the iconic Marvel monster. So yeah, there's a trailer for the Morbius movie. As a matter of fact, we can go ahead and put the next couple of bit together in, because basically the trailer came out, people picked it apart, and there's a whole breakdown of everything we see, and including something at the end of the trailer, which apparently alludes to the fact that Morbius may also be in some part of the MCU because
Adrienne Toombs. Yeah, I was about to say Adrienne Toombs.
Yeah, Adrienne Toombs. Michael Keaton's Adrienne Toombs shows up at the end of the trailer, and there's also a Spider-Man symbol. Well, not only an
image, yeah.
Yes, but there's also an image of Spider-Man and with the word murder on it, which doesn't seem to be from the the recent Spider-Mans, but the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man.
I mean, it's just a caricature, but what's
Right.
What's interesting is that the word murderer is written across in a graffiti style, and that implies that it might be that implies a reference to the events of Far From Home.
Right, but there's also a suggestion that it might not be from that, but it could be from Tobey Maguire. There's a couple of things that's weirdly going on.
Right.
Because it says here the image bears a striking similarity to the Raimi era costume included with the PS4 Spider-Man game. Although, like you said, the murderer could be the reference to young Spidey. So, yeah, I don't know. It's first of all, this movie and Venom. I treat this movie like Venom. Neither one of them has a direct Spidey tie to it. In fact, Venom pretty much went out of his way not to have a tie to Spider-Man, which is the source material.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that this one is doing this is playing with people's emotions, and also having Michael Keaton's Adrienne Toombs at the end of it in a lab coat, no doubt, which is weird. Also, is kind of weird. Especially with Sony being like, look, no, this is ours. We're not tying it to the rest of the stuff unless we get more out of it. So it's a whole thing. I believe there's also I thought I saw something else that said that J.K. Simmons might have also been a part of this some kind of way. I might be wrong about that, but I thought I saw something on that. But regardless, so that whole thing is out there. If you want to go watch that trailer, or if you have watched it already, I don't know what you think, but let us know. Did you watch it?
I did.
What'd you think?
I thought it was okay. I mean, the surprises were nice, and I think that's probably what I got the most out of.
Right. But there seemed like even with this character, there seemed to be some things that tied this character that wasn't shown for according to what some people are saying, or this particular version of, didn't show some things. But then again, I mean, it's a trailer, so it's only a teaser trailer, so maybe this stuff was left out intentionally. But basically, there was some seemingly defining Morbius stuff that was people thought that was left out and called into question. Anyway, we'll see. I don't know. I probably won't watch this one either, but we'll see. Next up,
where are we now? Sony Pictures. Sony Pictures is reportedly developing Silver and Black as a TV series instead of a movie. This was originally a concept for a movie featuring Silver Sable and the Black Cat as part of Sony's Spider corner of their corner of the Marvel universe.
Oh, crap.
Okay. And that was eventually nixed, but now it's being redeveloped as a TV series.
Yeah, and there's still no whether, because there was a recent, I don't know I doubt if this is the one that ABC was talking about that we talked about last week that they were trying to do, or if this was still something else for like Disney Plus or Netflix or something. I doubt Netflix at this point, but you know what I'm saying. We don't know that much about it, regardless, outside of the fact that that they're transitioning into a show. For all we know, they could be doing like the whole Disney, the Obi-Wan Kenobi thing, and just still making the movie, but breaking it into show biz. Because we don't know how far they got into it with it. Anyway, next up, Snake Eyes production heads to Japan. So yeah, guess what, folks?
As it should.
Well, yeah. And you will see no disagreement on that part. But on January 10th, 2020, production on the G.I. Joe spinoff Snake Eyes officially moved to Japan to celebrate the cast and crew assembled to a shrine to receive a traditional blessing ahead of the beginning of shooting in Tokyo. So, cool. Yeah, that thing's still a thing. It's still going to happen. Next.
Cartoon Network has posted the first episodes of Thundercats Roar online. So I did not know they were getting another reboot.
Oh yeah, no. Well, we talked about this a while ago, but yeah, apparently it happened, and I'm saying the same thing I said then. I'm still not crazy about that art style. It's also kind of funny that somebody was like somebody posted an image from this and another project that somebody who was on both projects was attached to, and basically was saying like, hey, this is amateur. All there was all they were saying like, hey, this is amateur and this is professional. Now which one is whatever? And then the person who was on both things was like, I worked on both, so I don't see how that has something to do with anything. It's an artistic choice. I'm still not crazy about it. I may check it out. I didn't get a chance to check out this though, but it's out there if you want to. Next up, Star Trek Picard gets renewed for season 2 ahead of his debut, and I will go ahead and add that one. Sir Patrick Stewart now has a star or has his footprints on the Walk of Fame. So congrats to them. Where he and Sir Ian McKellen shared a nice little kiss and setting the internet ablaze, along with some pictures of him and some suits. That has nothing to do with that, but just happened to come along at the same time. I felt like we knew about this season 2 already. Mind you, season 1 hasn't started yet. In fact, it doesn't start till next week at the time of this recording on the 23rd. So the fact that we already got a season 2 when we weren't really expecting, we don't know what to expect out of season 1. I guess that says something. But this is also something that's also came up before, because I feel like this is basically confirmation of that, and it's been said like probably weeks ago. Next up,
Brian K. Vaughan and Tony Harris's Ex Machina has been optioned as a feature film by Legendary Entertainment, according to The Hollywood Reporter. The film adaptation has been renamed The Great Machine, which is the politician/hero's vigilante name in the comic, to avoid confusion with the 2015 sci-fi film Ex Machina. Cool.
Or probably the video games, but which are Deus Ex Machina, so I doubt that part was whatever. So yeah, so another comic to film. Cool. Matthew A. Cherry lands Oscar nomination for Hair Love. And if you've not seen that short, it is quite cute. You should go check that out. So congratulations to him and everybody involved in that. And that is it for the cinematic news. We will now...
Alex. Wonder if our invitations were really us.
Okay.
I was about to say, was that our transition? I was about to hit this one.
No, that was a stupid autoplay from an article I was going to bring up from the clickbait section, but I'm not going to.
Gotcha.
So now we transition over to, like Agent 70 said, to the comic book news, and we start off with temporal travesties and rats overrun Central City in The Flash Giant #2. So I don't know. Have you been picking up any of those books? I guess you're not near a Walmart though, so you can kind of.
No, I have so many. You don't remember all the problems I had trying to get a worthy Captain America from a non-existent Walmart within the 5 boroughs of New York City.
Right. So yeah, apparently these books must be. Now, last time I been over to that section, there's a bunch of these books in that section. That's not really saying much, but maybe I guess they're saying enough to keep going. Like I remember going in there, like when they first started, and seeing people kind of run through them to kind of find certain books. Right. And not just like different issues of different stuff that are in there. And I'm fairly certain Walmart's not really caring about upkeep, so, or at least that much. So I guess that's good. Anyway, the reprint stories in this issue are basically from some old Flash books, in addition to the lead story, which is done by Gail Simone and Clayton Henry, and which is called The Accelerated and the Infinitesimal, which I guess if this picture is any indication, guest stars the Atom. So cool. Next.
Wonder Woman number 750. Gail Simone confirms the return of fan favorite, really? Character Star Blossom.
It might not be to you, but
I mean, this is next week. Wonder Woman 750 drops next week.
mhm.
Peony McGill, otherwise known as the hero Star Blossom, first appeared in a short story entitled Big Things One Day Come in the Wonder Woman 75th Anniversary Special, written by Gail Simone and drawn by Colleen Duran. It's a young girl who recently came into her powers, being given a certain amount of control over plant life. Okay.
It's not poison ivy though.
Right.
So yeah, I think this is my first time hearing about this character, but then again, I haven't checked out Wonder Woman in a minute. So cool. Next up, expect more DC titles to revert to legacy numbering after Wonder Woman and The Flash. So apparently, according to this article, the legacy numbering is not a gimmick, quote unquote,
Right.
and that more books will possibly get it, because it says here the publisher has recently met with great success with Action Comics and Detective Comics 1000. And the quote is, and you'll see that happening with a couple of other books. It will not happen with every series, but will certainly be happening with some of the key books. I would assume Justice League is probably going to end up being one of them. Would make some sense, I guess. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, so more legacy numbering happening. Next up,
Dan DiDio has pledged that no future DC Black Label titles will be solicited until on-time shipping is certain. Shipping delays has plagued all of the books, not some, all of the books that have come out under DC Black Label.
So yeah, so this is basically him. This is basically him. Like, we will not. Dang it, I'm trying to remember that quote from the Bottles and James commercial, but I don't. But basically, the long and short is like, yeah, we're not gonna be releasing the book until we're sure they're gonna be ready to come out.
Yep.
So, which, cool, good. Speaking of old Dan DiDio, he says that Doomsday Clock's scheduling issues made it, quote unquote, made it difficult to align, unquote, with DCU. Which, yeah, an event 2 years in the making, literal 2 years in the making for a 12-issue series, which has costed our Agent 70 one crisp dollar bill. Go figure, kind of sticky to work around.
Damn you, Doomsday Clock.
It's kind of sticky to work around because of and I still don't know whether it had anything to do with anything overall. It didn't sound like it did for the most part.
Right.
But I didn't read it, so I don't know. We may be talking about it more in the hopefully soon to be coming end of the year thing. We got recording at some point soon, hopefully. Next up, DC drops first look at adult-only Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey series. So, the inevitability happens in that, hey, the movie happens and there's a tie-in book. Except for, I don't know if it's a tie-in to the movie, but it's just so happened to be named Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey, and it's a comic book mini series that's going to be written by Harley Quinn writers Amanda Conner and Jimmy Palmiotti. Also illustrated by Amanda Conner and colored by Paul Mounts. The series will be published through DC's Black Label imprint, with the creative team taking full advantage of the mature readers format. So, DC has released a black and white preview of the open issue, showcasing the full tilt into no holds barred sex violence as Harley meets with Power Girl before embarking on a bloody rampage of her own. Blah 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 blah. So yeah, there's a book coming just in time for the movie, or around time of the movie. In fact, I can't remember if this is the one that got pushed back. What? What's up?
Nothing. I was just looking at something funny.
Okay. Next up.
Well, we just covered this. Robin arrives in the future in Legion of Superheroes number 3. I just spoke about this in my rapid fire review of the book. So if you're interested, take a look. It's out this week.
Yep. DC First Look, Batman Pennyworth, RIP #1. So yeah, DC believes readers are wondering what Batman and Detective Comics will look like without Alfred. And next month, Batman Pennyworth, RIP #1, 48-page special, looks to shed light on the topic and eulogize the beloved sorting character. So I guess Alfred's like dead now, huh? Like I wonder.
For now.
Well, I don't know. Again, like I said, well, I was about to say I said something similar with Marvel, and they did bring some people back. Actually, they brought a lot of people back. So, never mind. Yeah, we'll see. I guess. Next up,
DC celebrates Catwoman's 80th anniversary with Super Spectacular. So on April 15th, the publisher plans to release Catwoman 80th Anniversary Super Spectacular #1, a one-shot anthology similar to the recent ones for Action Comics #1000 and Detective Comics #1000. Okay, it's just going to exist as a standalone issue.
yes,
It's not going to have legacy numbering.
right. And there's some creators of note that is going to be on this book, including one Paul Dini.
Okay.
So cool. And then the rest is an article, is an interview rather. Next up, the most dangerous hero to the DC multiverse is spoilers, and this is a spoiler for Hawkman #20, I suppose. And I guess Hawkman is the most dangerous one we're talking about. I don't know. This is still some stuff coming out of Dark Knight's Metal. I don't know. And dealing with that, I guess that Batman Who Laughs mess that's been going on. I don't know what DC's doing right now. Moving right along.
Nice. Teen Titans Beast Boy takes what animal challenge in new Piccolo art?
Yes, so Gabriel Piccolo is an artist who was well, I don't know if this is how it happened, but this is how I feel like it happened. So he was a artist who was putting a lot of stuff on Instagram with his redesigns of the Teen Titans, specifically Raven and Beast Boy. And I believe that is how he ended up getting the job on the Raven book that came out with cameo. I can't remember her name. But regardless, I have enjoyed Carmen Garcia. Thank you. And I said this dude needed more work because I loved his reimagining. But yeah, he ended up doing that Instagram challenge, and he put it out on Twitter, which you can see the results if you're watching the video and or follow him, which you should. He's got some great stuff that he posts on Instagram.
Gotcha.
So next.
All right. DC Comics just debuted Spider-Man. So apparently, was it the Dial H for Hero guy in Young Justice?
Okay, so yeah, apparently, so Dial H for Hero is an ongoing thing with Sam Humphries and I can't remember who the artist is. Apparently, Bendis must have used him in Young Justice #12, which I still haven't read yet.
Right.
And the character that happened to come out of that is a Spider-Man-ish like character, which, hey, guess what? Brian Michael Bendis is writing Young Justice. Just so happens to have written a good bit of Spider-Man in the past, including birthing one Miles Morales, or co-birthing one Miles Morales, I guess you could say. Actually, there might be another. This is me adding this, and not them, but I do remember there was a version. There was a character in the Young Justice animated series that had some would say Spider-Man like powers or abilities, and was also being voiced by a Spider-Man or a Spider-Man voice actor. So I feel like some part of it was part of that also, but probably not. Nevertheless, that was a thing that happened. So I need to catch up on this book.
Okay.
Next up, comics graphic novel sales up 2.23% in 2019 as Watchmen and Detective topped the charts. So Marvel was the top publisher while DC sold a lot of Batman books. Guess what? Water is wet.
That's generally how things go.
Yeah, sadly. But it has so basically, okay, guess what, folks? It has nothing to do with diversity. It has nothing to do with what folks are saying is forced agendas in comics when the stupid books that keep selling are the same books, same old stuff. Anyway, that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother situation.
Exactly. According to the Image publisher, the industry is still grappling with monthlies versus original graphic novel format.
Yeah, apparently that is the thing that's come up recently, as that the whole debate about the whole direct market thing versus month to month or whatever, or whatever other things going around that situation has come back up again recently. Coincidentally, around the time of that last article, but it is what it is. So yeah, so there were some creators going out there kind of talking about that. You can kind of read more about that in this article, or at least Newsarama's view of it. And I guess going along with that, the next story, Image publisher says there are way too many books for comic stores to handle.
I agree with that.
Yeah, that is kind of true. One of the big problems facing the comic industry is way too many books, quote unquote, according to Image Comics publisher Eric Stevenson. Comic book stores can't keep up with ordering them. There's just too many to keep track of. And if a specialty market catering to this specific type of content is overwhelmed by the amount of books being published, that's going to be an issue for other sales channels, Stevenson said. He goes on to say that worse is going to trickle down to readers because at $4 and $5 an issue, that limits the number of comics someone can reasonably afford within a single month or every month. Also true.
Mm-hmm.
This is an expensive hobby.
It is. It is. Even with whatever discounts you might get.
Exactly.
I had occasion to. I didn't even realize this because I don't pull my books at Midtown Comics, but they changed their discount, their pull list discount / rebate, where you have to spend. It used to be you spend $100 to get $20 back, so that was essentially a 20% discount.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's you spend $120 to get $20 back. So, it's definitely a step in the wrong direction for us collectors.
Yeah, see, I think my shop, or at least the last time I was frequented it on the regular, which sadly I haven't been able to do as of recent. They basically give you one of those stamp sheets. You know how you would get in certain places where you get over, say, like you buy over $20 worth of stuff, you get a stamp. You fill that stamp up, you get a gift card for like, or you get a
rebate or something.
A rebate thing for like $20-$25, something like that. Yeah,
right.
So I don't know if he's still doing that. I hadn't seen him in a minute. So. But yeah, it's a hard market because there's a lot of, we've even said it, there's a lot of books that come out every week, with the exception of weeks like this. But
yep,
it's a lot to kind of take in, and definitely a whole lot if you're especially trying to keep up and going to the local comic book shop, which you should.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, move right along. Excuse me, I can take this. Ooh. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #2 receives a second printing. I still have yet to read the first issue of this. So yes, that crossover, which is at this point, I think it's 3 issues in at this point, but the first issue ended up getting the second printing, and now the second issue has done the same. So it must be good. I mean, this was a crossover that was bound to happen. I have said that before, so I need to go ahead and just catch up on Power Rangers and this particular, which has nothing to do with those, but this particular crossover, because my curiosity has been there for a minute. Next up,
speaking of this crossover, at the end of Mighty Morphin, spoiler alert, at the end of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #2, It's a good thing they didn't add Saban's in there, because that would have been just a really long title.
Totally, because there is one of the books that's like basically Saban's Go Power Rangers, blah blah blah. So yeah,
we got to see an awesome Green Ranger Shredder mashup, basically.
Mhm.
And now Boom Studios is giving us a better look at the evil-looking super bad guy. Okay.
Which is probably why the book went into second printing. I guess we can kind of assume.
Right.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to checking this out. Like I said, so I'll hopefully by the time the next one comes out, I will be caught up. We'll see. Here's a preview for Marvel's Spider-Man: The Black Cat Strikes #1, which sounds like it's in the same universe as the other game book. So what?
This was out this week.
Yes.
Yep.
So yeah, there's a preview for it if you're interested in it, but it is out this week. Neither one of us read it, so it doesn't matter.
Nope.
Yeah, this is in the same universe as the other Spider-Man Velocity and City at War books that have come out previously.
Right. This is the PS4 universe,
basically. So yeah. Next up, and I believe, is there? I want to say there was an Adventures book out. No, I think that was last week. Yeah,
that was last week, but they are coming out regularly. So
right, there's a Thor book set in the same universe from the upcoming Avengers game that came out last week. If you're interested, anyway, some good news to one Matt Wang.
Hey, it works. A new Power Pack limited series by writer Ryan North and artist Nico Leon will launch in April, following the events of the Outlawed one shot, which will make it illegal to be a superhero on Earth in the Marvel Universe if you're under 21. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and now I have to read this because of the Nico Leon art, which I never thought I'd hear myself say something like that. But I love Nico Leon's art, so this damn you, Matt Wang. That's all I'm gonna say.
That's cool.
You had something to do with this. I know you did, and I'm pointing at the camera like you can see me, but you can't.
So. Oh, I know.
Next up, speaking of Outlawed, which is news I think we kind of alluded to or called up to, but when we were talking about incoming, or it just basically worked out because it was already out there like that. Night Thrasher resurrects the New Warriors after Outlawed. So again, if you read the incoming one-shot book from a couple of weeks ago, Night Thrasher shows up, and we kind of postulated that this is probably leading to the New Warriors. They the character even mentioned, hey, we should get back together when he was talking to Nova.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of speculated that they were going to do something with that, and sure enough, here it is. And again, we even said then, it was like, the New Warriors know a little thing about having issues, having been the ones starting the Civil War in the first place,
Mm-hmm.
So they would know too about some illegal superheroing, as it were. So let's see, the classic team of Night Thrasher, Namorita, Speedball, Rage, Firestar, and Silhouette.
No Nova.
Exactly. No Nova. Well, I think the Vance Astro. I feel like I saw an article said that Vance Astro may be involved, but it might be with the Empire thing. I can't remember, but Justice is going to show up somewhere. But yeah, noticeably absent was Nova, but I think because of incoming, we now know why, or we knew why. So, so yeah, that's the thing that's happening. It's going to be written by Daniel Kibblesmith, who was the writer on the recent Loki series that was canceled, and artist Luciano Vecchio. So, you looking forward to it?
We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it depends on how Outlaw kind of presents itself, I guess. Because if it's just like Civil War 2.5 or 3.0 or whatever,
right?
Oh, how to feel about it. Next up,
right. So, fans of the latest iteration of the Champions, do not despair. A new Champion series will be the main book launching in the wake of Marvel's Outlawed one-shot, with writer Eve Ewing carrying the shockwaves of the ban on teen superheroes forward. along with artist Simone DeMeo. So the series unites Kamala Khan, Miles Morales, and Sam Alexander, and likely a few more.
Yeah, and this, if you're watching the video, you can see what looks to be the cover for the of that issue, and yeah, it seems like when Miss Marvel Kamala Khan might be front and center in more ways than just one.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to this. Like I said, I enjoyed. I love the Champions. You also do, and you know, Eve Ewing did a pretty great job on Riri Williams's Ironheart book. So happy to see her get more work. Captain America: The End postponed to 3 weeks. So I could have sworn, didn't Captain America already have a The End?
I think so.
So, and this kind of goes against what we said last week, but we also wasn't really sure. That will bear some investigation. But regardless, the final Captain America story is going to happen. It's been delayed. Eric Larson's writing it, and actually writing it and doing the art on it. Excuse me, and the cover is by Raza. But it's been delayed for some odd reason. It says, yeah, the publisher informed retailers of the schedule change this week, while not giving a reason for the change, probably because of who's on the book. That's speculation. I don't know. Could be unfounded. Could be other reasons. Who knows? There was also a Venom The End that came out this week. Neither one of us read it.
Right. And apparently this is a spoiler for the next story is a spoiler for the events of this issue, wherein Iron Man apparently is it takes on a somewhat villainous role to battle against Venom in the last war of the Marvel Universe. Okay. And that's probably, instrumental in the end of Venom.
Yes. And again, so is this Tony? Is this AI Tony? Is this actual Tony?
No.
Oh wait, it says when the ASI taking the form of Tony. So I guess it's AI. So I guess that's still playing into what's going on currently.
I guess.
I don't know. Those DN books are weird. Anyway, a classic Avengers lineup assembles for Empire. And that lineup looks to be, if this cover is an indication, Captain America, Iron Man, Hulk, Vision and Scarlet Witch, Thor, and Quicksilver. I don't know. I think around these parts we're still a little bit evented out, but at the same time, it piques my interest.
Mm-hmm.
Like between this and Outlaw, kind of piques my interest.
Sure,
because this seems to be Kree Skrull War Part 3, or I guess 2. I don't know. Just there's been some scuffles in the past. That's lend itself.
Right. I mean, I enjoyed the last big event there was, War of the Realms.
Oh yeah, totally.
So this isn't on that same scale.
But at the same time, we have had events, a couple of events since then of middling quality.
Right. Right.
So
and
like,
they're
event from event to event, like we've been doing.
Yeah, I was about to say they're really only events in not even name only, but just in it doesn't. They're not like that line wide, all encompassing event. So they're these mini events. So this seems to be an event involving the Avengers and the Fantastic Four.
Right. Yeah. It's the line wide events to pretty much cover all the books, and the little ones are sectional in whatever corner of the universe. But still, if you read enough of those books in the set corners of the universe, that's a lot. Like we kind of tend to do, and it gets to be a good bit. But hey, it's coming in April. We'll see what's happening. That's a one shot. That they're talking about. I think it's the one that kicks it off. Next up, speaking of Empire.
All right. Speaking of Empire is going to have a handful of tie-ins, or at least a few tie-ins that have been announced so far. There's going to be an Avengers one-shot and a 3-issue Spider-Man miniseries coming out of Empire. There's an Empire Avengers #1 written by Jim Zub and illustrated by Carlos Magno, and features a cover by Steve McNiven. And the Spider-Man tie-in book is written by Taron Killam. if I'm not mistaken.
That sounds right.
Formerly of Saturday Night Live.
Wait, who?
Taron Killam.
Yes. Huh.
There you go. I read that. Yeah, I just read this. I read the story at some point during the week. So
Right.
okay.
Yeah, I didn't read that far, but so cool. Yeah, I think you already said it, but Zub's doing the Avengers one.
Mm-hmm.
So cool. And also, while we're at it,
800-588-2300 and go.
Oh no.
which that's all I've been hearing when this event comes up. Anyway, the New Mutants just
It's
event.
not Cookie and Terrence
Oh,
Howard.
I talk about them, but the less I think about that show, the better. I have not.
I don't
watched
watch that show at all. I just know
it. My wife watches that show. I will not watch that show.
anytime I see Terrence Howard, I'm just like, he's gonna call somebody Maine. He's gonna call somebody Maine at some point.
Pretty much.
Maine. Okay.
I love oh Lord, I can't remember her name. I love Cookie, but you know, she's awesome. Whatever. But no. No, not gonna happen. Not gonna work. Anyway, next up, the New Mutants just been one of the X-Men's darkest moments. This comes from New Mutants number 5, which we did talk about last week, but we didn't mention. Well, we kind of alluded to the fight they had at the in the midst of the issue with the Shi'ar Death. I want to call them Death Troopers because I got too much Star Wars on the brain, but the Death Commandos, and they handily took care of, which you know, the X-Men in the past have had a run-in and you know, had issues with in the past. Going back to, I think it says here actually, going back to
a sneak attack.
So what?
It was a sneak attack when they came to take out Rachel.
Yeah, Uncanny X-Men 467.
Yep.
Chris Claremont and Chris Bacalo, which I didn't know Chris Bacalo did.
He's had solid runs on Uncanny.
I don't remember that. That's cool. Anyway, so basically revenge has been had. Yeah, go check out the new Mutants book. It's pretty good. Next up,
Marvel is going to launch a new X Factor series coming out of Hox Pox and Dawn of X.
Yeah, this is something that's kind of been so it's actually another new, I guess, it's not necessarily new because they've kind of been detective. X Factor's kind of been a detective.
Right, they just have a new mission.
Yeah, so this is basically they are doing what seems to be the homicide work, homicide, knife on the street. That's storycore. Don't step on that. Anyway, they're basically doing the homicide work for deceased mutants.
Right. Basically, they're investigated, but not to avenge them because they don't have to avenge anything.
Exactly. Yeah, they're just doing the legwork to find out what's what, which we have seen some bits of in the course of like X-Force. So I guess this is, you know, that's just going to be broken out into this section. Does it say who's going to be on the team? We see. Oh yeah, here we go. iBoy. Oh God, Rachel Gray, Prodigy, who I thought lost his powers, but apparently since
I was gonna say since Hox Pox.
Yeah, I know, right? Polaris, Daken. Well, yeah, and Daken, not the group, but Wolverine's son.
Well, that's how we're supposed to pronounce it. So.
Yeah, I know. Protect your chicken from Daken also was a stupid commercial that I heard. Anyway, so yeah, that's the group. It's going to be Leah Williams, is going to be writing this, and who's on the art? David Baldeon, who's I guess doing Gwenpool, but who's also doing Domino's book. His art was great, so I will probably check this out.
Okay.
Next up, X-Men crossover coming with big plans for December, which we got to hold another 12 months to go, folks. So that's a good ways off. X-Men Group editor Jordan D. White says that a Dawn of X crossover is in the works, with big plans for Marvel's Mutants coming in December. Which I had to look at the date for this article when I saw that. I was like, wait, is this old news?
No, it's like a full year away.
I know. Yeah, I know. Because I was like, well, okay.
I mean, they're going to give Dawn of X room to breathe.
Oh, clearly.
And then they're going to move into the big crossover.
Which makes sense. I mean, because it's really just getting off the ground. So,
yeah, I mean, they're still launching new titles.
Right.
They haven't even gotten the Wolverine book off the ground
until next month. So, yeah. So we've announced a couple of new books and have a few more to announce, according to Jordan White. We've got a big X-Men crossover we're working on that I'm pretty excited for. We've actually got some plans for next December that are really fun if they come together the way we want them to. He didn't reveal any further details on the planned crossover or a subsequent December event. We will probably find out in a good 8 months when the solicits come out.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, while White previously mentioned the possibility of a Dawn of X line crossover, which it kind of sort of already has in a way, following the launch of last year's X-Men 1. So yeah, and then it goes on with all the titles. So look forward to seeing more news on that as the year progresses, I guess.
Alrighty.
Next.
We're in the home stretch, folks.
Yes, we are.
Marvel Comics is going to republish the seminal X-Men graphic novel God Loves, Man Kills this April in a special 2-issue director's cut edition that includes a brand new story from original creators Chris Claremont and Brett Anderson. This was originally published in 1982 as Marvel graphic novel number 5. The story was adapted for the plot of X2, the second X-Men film. The Claremont and Anderson new story will be a modern day framing device for the classic tale. That makes the value of this rebuy a little bit better. I definitely was not in the position to buy God Loves, Man Kills when it first came out because it was way too expensive for my 7-year-old self. So
yeah, and I'm pretty sure I was like reading Secret Wars or whatever else and whatever other Avengers books and not thinking too much about that. Well, I was probably just starting to get into X-Men because
I was looking at X-Men, but I definitely wasn't buying anything that expensive. Like the graphic novels. Forget it.
Right. So yeah. Good. Yeah, and I still don't think I've read it, but hey, guess what? I'm fairly certain it's probably out there on comics.
I read it. I read it a long time ago, so it's been a while.
I may have actually bought it off of Comixology now that I think about it before Unlimited came along, but I'll have to check. Anyway, next up,
you got this, Mahmoud.
I thought you did. Anyway, Mahmoud Asrar takes over X-Men.
I was like, no, I just did the God Loves, Man Kills one. That's why.
Right. Mahmoud Asrar takes over X-Men number 8. So as of Mahmoud Asrar stepped in as the new artist of March 11th X-Men number 8, replacing originally solicited R.B. Silver. Marvel didn't give any reason for the change, which that seems to be the boilerplate. Asrar is currently the X-Men cover artist and recently finished a run as interior artist on Conan the Barbarian. This will be his 5th stint as an X-Men artist. Previously drawing Ultimate X-Men, Wolverine and X-Men, X-Men Red, and Uncanny. So, cool.
All righty. Next up, Deadpool co-creator Fabian Nicieza is branching out to write prose novels. He has sold a series called Suburban Dicks to Putnam Berkeley, as in Suburban Private Investigator.
Yes. Mm-hmm. But still, chuckles abound.
Exactly. I mean, obviously, there's a double entendre there. So,
So yeah, and why he looks like the Kid Mero to me, an older Kid Mero in this, but we're not gonna go there. So cool, yeah, he's getting into prose. That's awesome.
Yerp.
Nice.
Let's talk tampons. Those little things you put in your body month after month. Most of us will use about 10.
Oh, auto playing videos. I hate you, son.
Man, that woke me up. I'm falling asleep here, ladies and gentlemen. It's
Yeah,
late.
we only got a couple to go. Thank you, auto playing ads. Anyway, Square Enix delays Avengers game to fall 2020.
Yeah, I was about to say, talk about an apropos wake-up call for this news, because we were just talking about the Marvel Comics
Mhm.
video games, and now this game is delayed until the fall of 2020. So I wonder if they're going to delay the release of those books or not.
Doesn't seem like it.
They'll just continue to prove to be a primer for the Square Enix take on the Avengers.
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, so the release date is now September 4th, 2020. The news also coincides, which sometimes I hate fandom. Because people were like, "Oh man, why is it taking so long? Blah 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 blah. Why can't it come out sooner?" I'm like, dude, if they rush this stuff, you be complaining about it. If they don't rush the stuff and it came out on time, you be complaining about it. They're trying to polish it up a little bit more, which I think is the case here. And you complaining about it. Chill out. Just calm it. Anyway, the news coincides with the delay of the Final Fantasy VII remake, another much anticipated Square Enix game. So, yeah. Just try. Give more time. Hopefully it'll be good. People still complaining about the faces on that thing, and I hate it. Not the faces, but the complaints about them. I'm like, it ain't supposed to look like the MCU or the comics. Anyway, random. I mean, that's my rant. Next up.
All right, so a new list of graphic novels being published by 2000 AD has been unveiled for the publishing year 2020. There's going to be a superb balance between the best of 2000 AD's newest material while presenting old classics in fresh ways, including a new collector's edition of Pat Mills and Simon Bisley's seminal industry-changing Slain, the Horned God, coming out in May, and revisiting the beginning of John Wagner and Carlos Esquerra's Mutant Bounty Hunters Strontium Dog with Strontium Dog Search and Destroy, coming out in June. Cool.
Yeah, I have actually heard. I think I may have heard of Strontium Dog. That first one, I have not.
I've heard of both Slain and Strontium Dog, but I really have only ever seen them on a rack somewhere on a table at a con. I've never bothered. I hate to say it, never bothered to try to open it and read it. So
yeah, and we don't get any 2000 AD around these parts either way.
Right.
There's to be surprised to know that there's some stuff we don't actually get, despite all the stuff we do actually get.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that is it for the news, but I wanted to bring up this other in the variant corner section, and this will wrap us up in that Boss Logic. I'm sure if you've been out there on the Twitters long enough, you have run across some of his work. Boss Logic celebrates 150 issues of Carol Danvers with a variant cover. So I believe this is the first work that has been done. So Boss Logic is an artist that has done a lot of mock-ups for movies and such.
He started out as a fan artist, but then he worked on his craft so much that he actually got hired by actual studios to do movie stuff, movie posters and whatnot.
But he still does some fan stuff, fan art still on the side, because you can see if you go to his Twitter, you can see stuff he still puts out every now and then. And apparently some of his stuff called The Eye of Marvel, which no surprise there. And you got this variant cover, which you see here. Actually, that looks like Mark Brooks' cover right there. So here we go. Yeah. If you watch, you can see his cover.
Mm-hmm.
You guys do some not only good work, but convincing work in some cases.
Right.
Because I've had some people be like, "Hey, is this real?" and showed me a thing, of his mock-ups. So good on him, I guess. But anyway, that is it, and I guess that is definitely going to come out when Captain Marvel 16 comes out, whenever that is. And that is it for the news. Before we end the show, another ad read, please, sir.
Our last ad read of the night is for Amazon, because I'm tired. It's time to get through the last ad read of the night. Keep our podcast free by shopping at Amazon. Visit cspn.us, then click the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down and click on the Amazon link to shop. Purchase items from Amazon as you normally would, whether it's books, music, electronics, jewelry, apparel, etc. For every purchase made on Amazon through our link, Amazon sends the CSPN a payment that helps us keep the Comic Book Chronicles podcast free for our listeners at no extra cost to you. Amazon.com through CSPN.us. Do it today.
Yeah, I don't put up Amazon because it would show my Amazon page, and no one needs to see that.
Exactly.
And I don't feel like logging out, which is real stupid because that's probably the worst thing you could do in these internet streets right now, especially with Amazon and Apple and everybody watching it and listening to everything you do. Creepily enough. Anywho, we have come to the end of another Comic Book Chronicles. Thank each and every one of you guys for coming out, whether you came out after our recording or if you happen to catch us live recording on Thursday evenings at 9:30ish p.m. As we do every week. And we will continue to do unless something ends up happening
or movie protocol kicks in.
I was a different way with that.
Yeah, I was about to say we did not engage movie protocol for Bad Boys 3.
No, we did not. We were, which is granted, obviously it's not comic book related, although it's Michael Bay. There is a certain cartoonish quality about
it. Exactly.
But if we do, well, we'll talk after. Because
we're going to look at the upcoming schedule to see when our next possible movie protocol might actually be.
I want to say it's probably like April or May.
Well, I mean, obviously Black Widow is the next candidate, but there might be something in the interim, so we will see.
Yeah, but we'll let you know on our individual. Well, we'll let you know here and also on our individual social media accounts, which go as such. You can find me, Roddykat, on Twitter at Roddykat. You can also find me at News Nerds Need. You can also find me at CBCast on Instagram. 8_70 on Twitter and Instagram. PCN_dirt on Twitter. Pop Culture Net on Twitter. PopCultureNetwork.com and his umbrella sites therein. Tim DOGG98 on Twitter. CB Cron, that is the Comic Book Chronicles Twitter account. The Click Nation and theclicknation.com. That's DKLIQNATION. And also Comic Book Resources, where he's over there writing his face off. You can go check his out and give him clicks.
Oh yeah, clicks.
In fact, one of the articles we wrote, we've been kind of hyping up that he wrote. One of the X-Men articles that he wrote that was actually, we're not saying that because we know him. He actually does some good work. So, also you can find us at the Coastal Podcast Network, the CSPN.us.
Do it today.
You can also find us at your podcast perusal place of choice, and that would be either Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Coastal Slither Podcast Network's SoundCloud page. We might be on either TuneIn or Stitcher, one of those two, but I don't know, and I'm not going to say because I haven't really checked. You can check us out at those places. We are definitely at those places mentioned. Again, we will be back next week, 9:30 p.m. on the Click Nation's YouTube channel, where you can go check us out as we record, or you can find the audio the next day or two afterwards on Friday, probably, or Saturday, one of the two, on the CSPN US page or on Twitter.
Or just check your podcast feeds by subscribing. Subscribe to our podcast.
Yeah, we gave you the ways to do that, so go do it. And again, like I said, we're out there. We taught the show.
Right. It's a nice little surprise to see our show loading into your podcast feed. So
something like that.
Make sure you subscribe.
Indeed. And with that, folks, this has been the Comic Book Chronicles. Peace.
Peace. One.
I love it when a plan comes together.